Up by a cat. Gardening.
All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Mayor Shelley Carlson, and today is May 12th, 2025, and it is 5:30 p.m. The Moorhead City Council welcomes public input on issues listed on the agenda or of general community interest, time, and council permitting. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Excuse me. If you would like to address the council during the meeting, please fill out a form provided by the city clerk, and we will call you up during the citizens addressing the council item on the agenda. Please state your name and if you are a Moorhead resident. If comments were submitted to the clerk prior to the meeting via email or phone, those comments will be entered into record. For more information on participation, please visit the council meetings page on the City of Moorhead website at moorheadmn.gov. We, the Moorhead City Council, collectively and with gratitude acknowledge the sacred land the City of Moorhead is built upon. We acknowledge the people who have resided here for generations and recognize that the spirit of the Dakota, Ojibwe, Métis, and all indigenous communities permeate this land. With that, could I get a roll call, please?
Ryan Nelson.
Here.
Nicole Matson.
Here.
Heather Niesemeyer.
Here.
Emily Moore.
Here.
Deb White.
Here.
Lisa Borgen.
Here.
Sebastian McDougall.
Here.
Chuck Hendrickson.
Here.
Mayor Shelley Carlson.
Here. And for those who are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, and City Manager Molly, do we have any agenda amendments?
We have no amendments to the agenda tonight, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Borgen.
Second, Niesemeyer.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to recognitions and presentations. The first one is our Moorhead Award, and I will turn this over to Miss Lisa Bodie.
Good evening, Mayor Carlson and members of the City Council. We are once again here making a Moorhead recognition. Tonight's nominee is Migdalia Caballero. And Migdalia is an exceptional community advocate whose work at Community Action Partnership Lakes and Prairies, CAP-LP, has made a meaningful difference in the lives of many. Through her role in the Friends and Family program, she provides support and guidance to families in need, helping them through challenges with compassion and understanding. Migdalia's advocacy for early childhood education and her dedication to educating others about equity and representation demonstrate her commitment to creating opportunities for all. Her active engagement with CASA and her efforts to empower communities further highlights her selflessness and leadership. Migdalia was nominated by Siham Ahmadi from our Human Rights Commission, and she writes in the nomination, Migdalia is a standout member of our community, deeply committed to promoting equity and fostering healthy families. Her impactful work at CAP-LP, including advocating for early childhood education and educating others about the importance of equity and representation. As a navigator for the Friends and Family program, she provides essential support and guidance to those in need. Beyond her professional role, Migdalia is actively engaged in her heritage and demonstrates her dedication to empowering communities as she volunteers with CASA, which is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to the community empowerment of Latinos in Fargo-Moorhead. So Migdalia is an involved and passionate Moorhead resident, and she makes Moorhead a great place to live. I'd like to extend our gratitude to Migdalia for her dedication to making our community a more equitable place. Congratulations, Migdalia, and thanks for all you do. If you would come forward.
Wow. Mm. I don't have to say anything else. I think that Siham actually say everything. I am just very honored to and grateful to receive this award, especially from someone that nominated me, which is a person. She's a person that I really admire, actually for her leadership too. So she's an inspiration for me. Thank you, Siham, for actually thinking of me about this award. And of course, I want to appreciate all of you for this award, for your support, and my family, my children, one of them is here, my supervisor, my coworkers, all of them are actually part of this award, but most especially the community of Moorhead. This award is going to remember me the work that I still need to be doing for them. So this is for the community of Moorhead. And I was telling the mayor before that Moorhead is my home. I've been living in other places in the past, and the only place that I felt that I was home was Moorhead. And it is because this community is very welcome. And I am from Puerto Rico, and I felt the same feeling that I feel in Puerto Rico because you are very welcome. And that is what makes me happy to really be working for the community here. So thank you so much.
Well, Medalia, congratulations. And speaking with you before the meeting and having you express just the love that you have for the city of Moorhead and the fact that you've lived in so many other places and that it never really felt like home until you got here, just I think really means a whole lot. And I'm sure that the people that you're working with, you're creating that same feeling for them with the work that you're doing through Capital P. So thank you on behalf of the city of Moorhead. And also for Puerto Rico, my nephew is half Puerto Rican, so I know that it's a beautiful island to come from as well, but I'm glad that you chose Moorhead to be your home. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is a presentation from Sanford Ambulance, and I will call Tim Meyer up to give us the presentation.
All right, Mayor Carlson and members of the council, my name is Tim Meyer. I'm the Senior Director of EMS Operations at Sanford Ambulance, and I'm here to give you an update of the ambulance activity in the city of Moorhead for 2024. So a little bit of background on the ambulance, and I have a PowerPoint, so if you want to have a peek there. We have about 140 people that work at the ambulance, and we cover the entire city. We operate, of course, in Fargo and West Fargo and Moorhead. 130 of those folks are actual patient care providers, and the rest of the staff are support or dispatchers. We have our own dispatch center, for instance. And we are an accredited agency, one of 4 accredited agencies in Minnesota, and I believe there's about 180 accredited agencies across the U.S., so it's not mandatory or actually even common. Here's a heat map of the city, and what this map shows us is where the call volume is generally in the entire metro area. So the heaviest area is downtownish Fargo, not too far out of Moorhead. And the stars on this map are posts that we have where we have ambulances. They're not always a building, for instance. They may be, like in South Moorhead, for instance, I believe that's the parking lot of the Hornbachers. So at times we'll have a truck down there waiting for a call. Just depends. We gather a lot of data and we predict where we're going to have the volumes. But for the most part, the heat map tells us where we commonly have calls. So the call volume in Moorhead for 2024, we did 5,259 ambulance calls in the city. On this graph, it's broken down by month. And the darker blue part of the line is the patients that were transported The lighter blue area is patients not transported. Sometimes we get there and people don't need to go to the hospital or they don't want to. And then sometimes there's no patient contact. So like in the wintertime when there's a rollover, people call 911 and they land in soft snow in the ditch and nobody's injured. We'll go there and maybe they're gone already, so we don't find them. This busy graph is a 5-year tally of the number of calls in Moorhead. And over 5 years, it has increased a little bit from about 12.3 calls per day in 2019 to 15.6. So about 3 calls per day over the 5-year period. We don't respond to every call with lights and sirens. So the data tells us that that is not necessary nationally. Only about 7% of all ambulance calls are emergencies where somebody is having a life-threatening event. But all that is triage at the Triple RDC, Red River Regional Dispatch Center. If you ever call 911 for a medical call, they ask you a lot of questions. And it's all designed to get to a decision on what assets need to go and for on our side, how we respond. So we want to do this in a safe way. About half the calls we respond to not what we would call non-emergent, so not using lights and sirens. And then about half the calls we do use lights and sirens. And then only about 2% of our calls we actually transport people with lights and sirens. So that kind of tells you how frequently somebody is really in that type of situation. Here's our response time goal performance for 2024. Our goal is to do 90% of the calls in less than 9 minutes. Minnesota state law says that we need to be able to reach any point within the city of Moorhead in 10 minutes. So our standard is a little higher than state law. But overall, we were at 93%. We did have a dip in October due to volume, I assume. But we keep track of that, and then daily we have someone that looks into what we call response time exceptions. So only emergency calls that we're judging here, and we try to figure out where the gaps are, why we would miss that. But it's impossible to be 100% compliant with that goal, but that's kind of a national standard. I just went backwards on my paper form. Okay, the top 10 primary impressions that we have. Number 1 is behavioral or psychiatric episode. 2 is alcohol use, abdominal pain, generalized weakness, shortness of breath, anxiety, injury of the head, chest pain, back pain, extremity pain. So about 3 of these categories are kind of behavioral related. So that would be behavioral or psychiatric episode, alcohol use, anxiety reaction. So that's a very common thing that we deal with in ambulance business, and the police do as well. 8 of these things were on the list last year, so 2 of the categories changed. The seizures and suicidal ideations came off the list, so for some reason they didn't make the top 10. It doesn't mean like behavioral psychiatric is the most common thing, because we have so many things to categorize our patients. This is I think probably in the 8 or 10% of our calls total. And we often get the question about where are we taking our patients. We are part of Sanford Health, but we take our patients to the hospital that they want to go to. And in this graph, the dark blue blip at the top of the monthly bars is the VA hospital, so they get a small percentage. Sanford is the lighter blue below that, and then Essentia, and it kind of follows the market split for the healthcare agencies. People are very loyal to their healthcare, and we want to take them where they want to go. In the next slide, you'll see who makes that decision. The vast majority of those are the patient or the family. There are just very few instances where we would bypass that and take them to a different hospital. So we are a Mission Lifeline Gold Standard accredited agency. And this is something we work with the hospitals on, and we measure both heart attack and stroke care in our community. And we've had this gold award every year that it's been offered in the 15-year range, Kathy. And one of about 17 ambulances in the whole country that have done it every year. And they're, just for reference, there are about 32,000 ambulance services in the United States. So that's Kathy's good work. She works on that project pretty hard, so we're pretty proud of that. In the city of Moorhead, for time-sensitive patients, those are things like heart attacks, strokes, trauma, or other critical things like an airway issue. Our average response time is about 6.5 minutes. So we work closely. The Moorhead Fire Department is the first responding agency, and that's the way a tiered response system works, that the first responders are able to get there and do immediate life-saving things if needed. Open an airway, defibrillate somebody with the AED, or stop bleeding, that type of thing. It's a good system, and we work well with that agency. We submit cardiac arrest data to an organization called MyCares, and in this slide, we're comparing the city of Moorhead with national data. So for cardiac arrest, in Moorhead, the folks in suffering cardiac arrest, about 36% of them receive bystander CPR. Nationally, it's about 41%. Nobody had a bystander applied AED in Moorhead, and nationally, it's about 12.6% get bystander AED. However, we had better survival percentage than nationally. 10.2% survived to hospital discharge. Nationally, it's 9.2. And the overall score, called the Utstein score, is 25%. And that factors in all these things and kicks out a score. Nationally, it's about just under 30%. So bystander provided CPR and or AED. We're at 50% Moorhead, so that part is good, and which is well above the national average. So these are things that the community can work on. We train people to do CPR. The fire department does that as well. The things that can really close the gap and improve survivability in a cardiac arrest situation is people knowing how to do CPR, knowing where the AED is, so they can defibrillate somebody if they're in sudden cardiac arrest before the first responders get there, because it's a small window where you can make that difference for somebody. Last year, I think we had a question about overdoses. So in this slide, there are two types of overdoses represented. The smaller and lighter blue bar is opiate-related overdoses, and then all others is the darker bar. So overall, overdoses in the city of Moorhead the numbers have remained stable, but we're seeing more of a mixture of drugs, either by the user or the seller, that makes them not completely responsive to Narcan and the things we can do in the field. So somebody who's not overdosing on a narcotic, Narcan will have zero effect on. So that's some of the chemistry that's going on in the community. And just on a happy note, we've delivered 4 babies in the city of Moorhead last year. So that's always kind of fun. Everybody gets excited when that happens. But I'd be happy to take any questions if you have anything you'd like to ask me. And I have Kathy here, who is the expert on ambulance data, so feel free to ask.
All right, well, she's shaking her head no, so. So babies, boys, girls, like what are we?
I'm not sure. They were boys or girls, I don't know.
So thank you for the presentation. Any questions from council members? Councilmember Mattson.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. That was very interesting. I just wanted to go back to the cardiac events that had 0% of them had bystander AED, and then the 10% survived hospitalization. Does that mean 90% of the time someone calls in with a heart attack and they don't survive? Is that what that means?
They may survive to get in the hospital, that 90%, but really the better measurement of this system is who gets to go home and have some normal life. But that's true, yeah, 90%.
Okay, so if there were some kind of effort to, do we have any sense of I know this might be too far afield, but maybe this is a question to answer later. Any sense of how often someone could have had an AED applied in Moorhead? They were in proximity and someone just didn't know or didn't think to do it?
I sense Kathy's coming
Okay.
here.
I sensed my boss was going to call me. Unfortunately, the majority of the cardiac arrests that happen in all of our communities, about 2/3, about 60%, happen at home or in a private area where there would not be an AED. So that obviously makes it difficult. But we really want to push our bystander CPR rates historically over the years have either been a little bit lower than national average or right about at national average. But we've noticed that our AED just is not trending up. It's continuing to either stagnate or kind of drop. And so we want to encourage everyone in our community, if you are in a public area and see someone go down, if somebody can ask for the AED or go get it. There is also a Pulse Point app that the Moorhead Fire Department has helped implement in our area that will, if you register for that or have that on your phone, it'll tell you if there's an AED nearby or if you're close to somebody and an AED that may need help. So even if you didn't witness that person, it may alert you that, hey, somebody in the next building needs an AED.
Thank you. That was very helpful. I just want to say I just read this really great book about disasters and who survives and why. I don't remember what it's called, or I would tell you. But two of the things that if something is a disaster is survivable, one of the things that helps people survive is prior training. But if you don't have that, the other thing you can have is mental rehearsal. And so one of the things I've been trying to do in my office building, there is an AED machine, and I just noticed, I've worked there a year, and I just noticed it. And so now I'm trying to, when I go that way, I try to think, okay, AED machine right there. So that's one thing we can all do if we work at a place where, or spend time in a place with an AED, even if we're not specifically trained, just to mentally make a note when you go by it that it's there will help you remember if you need it at some point, which hopefully you never will.
Any other questions from council members? The only question that I would have, Tim and Kathy, would be when you talk about training people to do CPR, where does one find the classes to take? Is it online? Are they free? Length of time? Can you just maybe provide a little bit of more information on that?
We do provide CPR training at the ambulance service for people that work in an area that need that. So there's a fee for that. But we often do like CPR at the mall, and anybody can walk by and learn how to do CPR. And it's not hard to do it. I mean, it's a lot less intimidating than it used to be. So Kathy, where else can we do CPR training?
You can, the American Red Cross also provides CPR courses throughout. In Moorhead, I would think about potentially partnering with maybe some of the colleges, or we could help partner with that if somebody's interested in providing a hands-only CPR event, because they have nursing programs and other things like that that are looking for those types of programs. So I know we've worked with NDSU in the past, Concordia a few years ago, but it never hurts to refresh on it.
All right, thank you so much, and appreciate you coming in tonight to share this information with us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for all you do. All right, moving on to the approval of the April 28th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Moved, McDougall.
Second, Mattson.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to citizens addressing the council, there's two individuals who would like to speak to the council tonight. For those of you who are going to be speaking, just to give you an explanation of how all of this works, you'll get 3 minutes to speak. This wonderfully technologically advanced contraption will count down the time. It'll be green when your 3 minutes is ongoing. When it turns red, you'll need to wrap it up. And if you don't, I'll probably interrupt you and just explain that your time has been is up. This is an opportunity for you to give information to myself and the council. There won't be any back and forth questions or anything like that. And if it's something that that perhaps either our city manager or our assistant city manager can even address tonight, they'll meet with you out in the lobby area and provide you with that information. So, and when you come up, you'll just make sure that you're close enough to the mic so it picks up your voice, and then you'll need to state your name and if you are a resident of Moorhead. So the first person or sheet I was given was Shane Busby. So if you want to come up and state your name and if you're a Moorhead resident, then your time will start.
Name's Shane Busby, I'm a Moorhead resident, have been for a long time. I bought my house 21 years ago in this town. I love this town. I've never felt the need to address the council. So the fact that I'm here should show it's not just a small issue, in my opinion at least. I guess it's sort of related to the meters switch, which I'm all for. Upgrading technology is a good thing. But it shouldn't come at the cost of, I guess, residents beyond what it should cost. Like if there's issues with that, like say they had to replace my my curb shut off, understanding because I didn't have one. I had an old house. I had issues with basically the treatment from the staff of MPS. I'm talking to you guys about it because I went through the channels and I wasn't getting anywhere. And I only had one of my council members actually want to talk to me about it, which I appreciated. In the same week, we had, and mine got dealt with. It took me a lot of work and proving on video that I wasn't making things up, even though until I showed them that I had video, I was basically being written off. They didn't care. MPS is here to service the residents, us. That's their sole purpose of existing, is the city and the people in it. The same week, my neighbor had an issue, and hers is going to cost her money, and they aren't budging. So, and I'll let her speak on that, but they just started this project. They're going to touch every meter in this town, from what I understand, and for the city to go into such a big thing and go in people's homes, and from my understanding, do it with unlicensed plumbers doing plumbing. I've been in the building industry a long time. And if I were to do plumbing on someone's home, the state would be after me. I could be fined. I could lose any building license I have. But yet the city is allowed to use unlicensed plumbers to plumb in people's homes. That I find questionable. The only time an unlicensed plumber is allowed to work for the state is if they're a registered unlicensed plumber with the state. And that's not for just anyone. That's used for, like, if you're an apprentice. But in order to do the work as that registered unlicensed plumber, you have to be directly supervised, not just under someone. They need to be there to make sure you're doing it right. That's not what's happening. So how is the city being allowed to send unlicensed plumbers to touch our plumbing? And then when there's a problem, tell us it's not our problem, it's yours. That's, I guess, how I feel.
All right, thank you, Mr. Busby. And the next individual is Rose Hansen. Rose, if you want to come up and state your name and explain if you are a Moorhead resident.
Hi, I am Rose Hansen. I have been a Moorhead resident. I bought my home right next to Shane in 2022. Born in Minnesota, raised in Minnesota. I've been here for a long time. On April 1st, MPS came out and they replaced my water meter. Shortly after that, when we turned our sink back on, we had some abnormal water pressure. Immediately turned off all of our water, checked our plumbing, noticed that our backflow valve on our tankless water system had a leak. As this can occasionally happen due to excess pressure and occasionally right itself, we let it sit overnight, make sure that there was nothing wrong. However, overnight, it did significantly get worse to the point where one of my partners had to go and buy a mop to make sure that we could make sure our basement stayed pretty dry. I contacted MPS on April 10th due to professional obligations. For context, I am a graduate student at MSUM. I work as a graduate assistant, and I also work full-time as an HR resource generalist, so my life is a little bit hectic. I was told that it was their standard to not pay for any water shut-off damage because it could, quote, as happen at any time. I explained that I understood this. However, I just had somebody come in to my home, turn my water off immediately after I now have a very large repair. I contacted the original installers who originally quoted me over $1,000 to fix this, then called around to subsequent plumbers while also still working with MPS and the third-party contractor to try to come to a resolution. Two other plumbers also stated with the first one that this was related to the water pressure being shut off by the water meter. The part that failed is my backflow valve. This backflow valve not only protects my water lines, but the city's water lines. And this part is not designed to fail the way that it did. All three of the plumbers that I have contacted have all stated that they believe that this is directly related. MPS and the contractor both came back and said that it is incidental. I do not believe that it is incidental given the nature of the timeline of this. When I spoke to the third-party contractor, he originally tried to tell me that too much time had passed since when I had originally noticed the problem. I explained to him, due to my obligations, that this was the first opportunity that I could get in touch with them. After that point, he stated that they didn't need to be licensed plumbers because it was just a couple couplings. I'm not exactly enthused to hear that the third-party contractor who came into my home did not introduce himself, did not leave me any contact information to reach out to people in case I had an issue, to then be told that it didn't need to be licensed work. I understand that MPS, on their publicly available guidelines, states that they adhere to the Minnesota Plumbing Code when it comes to water meter replacements, which requires the use of licensed plumbers. There are certain exceptions for utility companies. However, I do not believe that MPS would fall under those exceptions right now because this was done on my private residence and this was done by the work of a third-party contractor. I guess that's about all that I have then. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will get this information also to Moorhead Public Service, to their general manager, and just so you're aware that they also have public meetings just like this. I just looked it up while you were speaking. The next meeting for Moorhead Public Service is May 20th at 4:30 p.m. It's in this same room. I would encourage you to probably go to that meeting and they have a public comment period as well. So thank you for coming tonight. And with that, we are going down to our public hearing, which is scheduled for 5:45, or we just have to do it after 5:45. And I will turn this over to Cole Swingen. First, I will need to have a motion to open the public hearing to authorize elimination of the Link FM service to select events.
Move to open public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and we are in public hearing, so I'll turn it over to you, Cole.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I come before you tonight to ask for a public hearing to authorize elimination of Link FM bus services to the events that are listed in your packet. Those include Frostival Frozen Fortress, Celtic Festival, Scandinavian Festival, the Downtown Street Fair, Trollwood Main Stage Musical, and Pangea Cultivator Cultures. So I'd just like to give you all a bit of background as to what Link FM is and what it was and what it was initially designed to be. So the service was created back around 2014, 2015 as a way to bridge both Fargo and Moorhead's downtown areas, allowing residents to park in the then Moorhead Center Mall parking lot, be able to use the Link FM bus service to take them into a couple of locations downtown to allow them to go to any of the shops along Broadway, some of the shops around Roberts Alley, slide into downtown Fargo, going by our main transportation center, the ground transportation center, and then going back into Moorhead. So it allowed residents to park over in Moorhead, travel into downtown Fargo, and then go back. The purpose of that was mostly at the time to eliminate congestion and parking issues that were downtown. Allowed both residents who live downtown as well as people who work down there to not have to fight for parking every day due to the lack of available spaces back when it was initially created. As time has gone on, we saw that there was not a lot of utilization of the service. Over the next couple of years, we saw it dwindle significantly, and we made the decision in 2020 to make it an episodic service. So just for specific special events that we did see a large amount of ridership, like a couple of them that are listed here, such as the Downtown Street Fair. With that, in 2020, we approved a list of events to service. Those events would come and go. We'd gather ridership data and essentially kind of see if the event was being utilized well and if people are utilizing the service. Unfortunately, after we decided to make that implementation, COVID hit us, so we saw a pretty drastic drop-off in events for the next couple of years. Since then, we haven't really seen ridership return to a majority of those events. We have seen still somewhat impressive numbers off of things such as the street fair, and then also, I'll get into it a little bit further here, but at the Pride in the Park celebration in the Blue Stem Theater. So that's another portion that Link FM has sort of morphed into over the years. We provided a couple of events service at the Blue Stem Amphitheater, those being Pride in the Park and the Trollwood Main Stage Musical. We've seen good attendance from Pride in the Park, like I said, and then fairly decent attendance from the Trollwood Musical as well. A couple of things that have kind of led us to this conclusion, in addition to the ridership decline of some of our events, is back last year we approved a change in our service hours. We used to end at 11:15 p.m. and now we're currently ending at 10:15 p.m. just the overall lack of ridership in that last hour. As such, we aren't able to provide additional service past that point, and unfortunately the Trollwood Main Stage Musical ends after 10:15, so we're able to get passengers there, but we're not able to get them back, which, you know, kind of just defeats the point of the service. In addition, as many of you know, there's quite a bit of construction going on around the old Moorhead Center Mall area, putting up the community center and regional library. So with that, we're going to be experiencing quite a bit of congestion and essentially just not being able to utilize the path that Link FM has been based on over the last however many years. And with that and the lack of parking due to the construction, we aren't really able to operate at least for 2025, to be able to service those events. So with that, we are still looking to maintain service potentially to Pride in the Park. If it does happen to go back into the Blue Stem area, we'd be happy to service that until 2027. Part of that is we have one vehicle that is funded by the state of Minnesota, so we don't fall under federal charter regulations. With that, it kind of restricts what we are and aren't able to service outside of our regular established routes. So that is an option for the next couple of years, and after that point, that bus will be retired and we will no longer have that option. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any additional information.
Thank you, Cole. Since this is the public hearing portion of the agenda item, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this item? And if there are members of the public who wish to speak, you'll need to come to the podium and state your name and your Moorhead resident. Again, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this item? All right, seeing none, I'd be looking for a motion to close the public hearing portion of this agenda item.
Moved. Second, Niesmeyer.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. The public hearing is now closed. Do any council members have any questions for Cole? Councilmember Niesmeyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Cole, I have a couple of questions. Can you tell me what sort of communication and discussion was offered? I saw the note in the packet about an information booth being available at the Ground Transportation Center, but I was curious with the organizers and coordinators of these particular events, since they are a wide swath of folks, I'm curious if any feedback or communication or integration into this planning was allowed and offered to these group coordinators.
Yeah, so we brought this to our Map Bus Coordination Committee a couple months ago, which is encompassed by a couple members of the Moorhead Council, Fargo Commission, as well as Moorhead City leaders, Fargo City leaders, and then also some representatives from West Fargo and NDSU. Essentially going through all this information, providing them with kind of our idea of ending that Link FM service, and that was one of the points that was brought up. Making sure that we establish communications with those event partners to make sure that they're aware that we have this in mind, kind of explain the reasoning behind it, and then also give them a heads up as to if we will or will not be able to provide the service in the future. Majority of the event organizers were understanding with it. Like I said, it's the main portion of it is just due to the construction that's going in around the area, so it unfortunately makes it so that we're not able to really provide the service. And then the other contact that we had was with the Trollwood Center for Performing Arts. We let them know pretty far ahead in time when we had that initial service cut back last year. We gave them the heads up that we wouldn't be able to provide the service. So a lot of the event organizers have reached out to us asking kind of what other options are available for them. Like I said, we as the transportation provider that's funded federally, it makes it difficult to offer charter service because federal regulations say that we can't compete with charter. So one of the best options for anybody who did receive service provided up by us in the past is just to reach out to the private charter companies. I know that for Pride in the Park, and I believe also for the musical, they also supplemented our service with charter. So that was something that we made those event organizers aware of, and for the most part, they're just understanding, didn't have many complaints about it.
Can I follow up that statement, Cole, and say, for those that were offered alternatives, you had mentioned or discussed picking the service back up, perhaps after some construction directly relating to roads, infrastructure in Moorhead has passed. Was that explored, or is it a possibility that has been discussed?
It is a possibility for the future. I think a lot of it also kind of shakes out to what this area is going to look like post-construction. Before, when we had the Moorhead Center Mall, it was a pretty wide open parking lot that wasn't being utilized for portions of it, so it was nice and easy to have a pickup point there. So depending on what that looks like post-renovation, that could be a possibility. I think that a majority of the events that we service just didn't see the sort of ridership that they did in the past, so that's a good portion of it. Out of the events that are listed in the recommendation here, I think the biggest one that would potentially feel an effect is the downtown street fair. We did have about 3,000 or so rides last year, but kind of the thought behind that is to City of Fargo has provided a couple of parking ramps that have been built within the last couple of years. So you have like the Roco ramp, the one that's by 4th Street and North, and then there's also going to be another one built by the old Broadway. So that's kind of our idea, is that for individuals who utilize it for parking, there will still be parking available, just not through us.
My final question, Cole, is you had mentioned specifically a bus that could be used for Pride in the Park, but it would be ending in 2027. Is that the beginning, like January of 2027? or December of 2027? I'm just thinking of strategically how our community offers Pride in the Park, typically in August. And so I think timing of when that's available, I know this year's events are not going to be at Blue Stem, but I'm curious if they would still have another 2 years or if it would just be 1 year.
Sure. So a good portion of that depends on bus availability. Generally what we do is we secure the local match, generally through the Fargo Commission. Once we receive that local match and have that in the budget, we go out for federal grants to be able to match that and to be able to afford the vehicles. And then once we get that match, then we're able to reach out to the bus company that we use as New Flyer. And that is generally anywhere from a year to year and a half lead time. So a lot of it just kind of depends on their manufacturing and when they're able to get the vehicle to us. But that's something that would potentially be able to coordinate with you guys with. I know that the Pride in the Park event isn't being held in Blue Stem this year, but if it is potentially in 26 or 27, that's something we'd be happy to work with.
Marvelous. I appreciate that offer, Cole. I think that's excellent. And I know timing with equipment and machines is up in the air a lot of the times, but I think keeping access and inclusivity in Moorhead is really at the top. I appreciated the link and seeing, well, myself taking a air-conditioned trip back and forth has always been nice to some of those larger events, and look forward to perhaps looking at bringing it back once downtown Moorhead is big and fabulous and has lots of sites to connect Fargo and West Fargo over to Moorhead some more.
Sure, sounds great.
Any additional questions from council members? Councilmember White.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to add a few comments from the discussions that we had in the MAP Bus Committee. One was just and Cole alluded to this, there were real huge disparities in terms of for the Link FM usage in Moorhead at events at the Yemcombs compared to Blue Stem, and so it really was. In some cases for the events here, it was just a handful of people. And we even talked about, because it was maybe, many hours, there would be nobody, but there was like a few hours that they were concentrated. And so we tried to think about if we might be able to just have it for, say, 2 hours. And then with the construction, it just became really untenable to try to do it along with that. But I wanted to go back to the Blue Stem issue just because I think it's important to just have this on council's radar that, the reason, so that, it was the places where we saw the heavy usage was in Trollwood for the theater programs and for Pride in the Park. And the 1 year we had it for Pride in the Park, it immediately had the highest usage of all of our Link FM events per hour. So that's because we have this great event center that doesn't have a lot of great ways to get in and out of it. And I just think, we even talked about this, that, this was one way to try to deal with it, was by providing this service that would help to limit some of the, mitigate some of the congestion issues. But it's something that I think as a council really need to think about in the future is, we want to have continue to have these great events, but when the street becomes a parking lot and people can't get in and out of it, then that really detracts people from wanting to continue to use it. So I just really wanted to, again, put that on there in terms of long-term thinking ahead of where things we might do in the future, that's an area that really needs to be explored for addressing some of the congestion issues. Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, I'd be looking for a motion to approve 9B.
So move, Borgen.
White seconds.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Cole.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming and giving us that background and information. All right, moving on to mayor and council reports. Are there any council members who have reports from assigned boards and committees for the city? Councilmember White.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to mention a few events that I attended and some things coming up. On May 1st, we had our Clay County Intergovernmental Committee meeting at DGF High School and discussed truancy. It was interesting, nice to be out there. There are hosts for next year, and mostly I just wanted to
also put this on your radar is if you have ideas of what you'd like to see for topics for next year's intergovernmental retreat. We have lots of times, but we'll be looking for suggestion for those topics for the next intergovernmental retreat in January. And then in the evening, we did our conversations with council members. Great event, had about, I counted 18 people, really nice conversations. And I think we're talking about, with the next one, I know for Ward 3, I think would be in sometime this summer, the one that we do in Gooseberry Park. Next Tuesday, I wanted to remind people that we'll have the global market, and this one looks like it'll be the biggest one yet. Where there have 19 vendor spots. They're pairing up with Heart and Soul Community Cafe, and they're also collecting non-perishable items for Dorothy Day Food Pantry. So if you happen to stop by and you want to bring an item to donate, that would be great. And then I also wanted to mention I'm serving on the search committee for the next executive director for the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County. You may have seen the story in the paper about Maureen Kelly Jonason. That's starting to wind down, and in fact, next week we'll have the 3 finalists here visiting Moorhead, and then should have a decision soon after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council members? Councilmember Hendrickson and then Councilmember Borgen.
Unmute, thanks. I attended the May luncheon of the FM Miriam Music Club where I read a, excuse me, what do you call that again?
Proclamation.
Thank you, proclamation. And saw a lot of friends there, a lot of people who played piano for me when I've sung throughout the community, so that was a good time. It was Mayor Mahoney, Mayor Dardis, and so we read the proclamation right away in the beginning. And then today I attended Fix It Forward. They had a ribbon cutting for 10 years in business. And it's a great organization. I would like to thank Matthew and Travis for the invites. They have given away over 300 cars for the community for people in need, and they've actually also fixed 700 cars from what it's probably more now, but for our community in need. So it's just a great organization, and I was just happy to be there. Thanks.
Councilmember Borgen.
Thank you, Mayor. As a member of the Moorhead Public Service Commission, I attended the Missouri River Energy Services annual meeting in Sioux Falls last week. I went down early because they were offering a 101 course, 4 hours on energy, which I needed because I'm kind of new to this commission. And overall, the conference was very informational. It was really a good foundation for me as a member of the commission, so it was a good experience.
Thank you. Any other council members have reports? All right, seeing none. A number of different meetings that I attended, and first was on April 29th. There was a Concordia College student that President Irvine had steered my way and met with that Concordia student. He's looking to do a social work internship and really is from the Duluth area, but really wants to intern in the Fargo-Moorhead area and particularly wants to make Moorhead his home after he graduates. So that was nice to hear that we're really drawing younger folks, not just to our community, but making it a place that they do want to call home, very much like Medalia talked about earlier in the meeting. Also attended the welcome for the Minnesota Young American Leaders Program alumni and incoming participants meeting. For those who are not aware of what this program is, it's an intensive 3.5-day program at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities that convenes rising leaders from across for-profit, government, and nonprofit sectors who are committed to working across sectors to help their communities and region prosper inclusively. They're able to forge connections with other rising leaders across the state of Minnesota, deepen their knowledge and share perspectives, and learn together from examples, and learn about tools for innovative cross-sector collaborations. And it was really exciting to go because this time the cohort that was selected through their application process, 2 of them actually work at the city of Moorhead. So Brittany Cameron and Kelly Kuntz. Both are representing the city of Moorhead in this very, very specialized and very unique opportunity. So congratulations to both of them. May 1st, I met with an individual who recently moved to Moorhead from Fargo. He missed connecting with me at the Chamber Collisions event because I needed to cancel at the last minute. Wasn't able to attend that event. She was very excited to be in Moorhead and was looking for ways to become involved in the community. And I thought that was pretty incredible that she was seeking me out, wasn't there, and then reached out to schedule a meeting. There was our weekly flood mitigation check-in with the county, the FM Area Diversion Authority, and the chamber. We wrote letters to the editor, and both were published, one in the Fargo Forum and one in the Star Tribune, again advocating for flood mitigation funding from the state of Minnesota, which is the #1 priority as determined by the council last year. There was also a meet and greet with the new MSUM men's basketball coach. We're hoping that he chooses to make Moorhead his house, or his home, I should say. And then also attended the Chamber Pulse event on May 6th to hear Chief Helmick present. He was on the panel with the other metro area chiefs. Chief Helmick talked about the fact that property crimes in the city of Moorhead are down 41%, and that he was surprised at the lack of awareness and the fact that the police department is unnoticed, I guess, in the community is a word he used. And he really wants to increase the social media awareness of the great and wonderful things that are being done by our police department, because it's just not being disseminated out into our community. His area of focus that he talked about is officer wellness, and then also the workforce shortage within the police department. Currently down 14 officers, but he stated 6 are in the FTO program. There's several conditional offers out, and they hope to be fully staffed in the near future. The last few meetings I did, 2 were on May 8th, and one of those meetings was meeting with a group from MSUM, 2 individuals, about the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon. So thank you to Councilmember Niesemeyer for making that meeting happen. We'll be discussing further about a potential person to be part of that event at our group at MSUM. And then I also did a welcome for the Fargo Moorhead Area Foundation Professional Advisors event, which was great to hear about all of the people within the Fargo Moorhead community who provide advice to individuals who are seeking to fund different projects and agencies within our community. And then again, the Friday morning flood mitigation check-in, which we're doing on a weekly basis to monitor that very important priority for the city of Moorhead. With that, I'm done, so I'll turn it over to you, City Manager Molly.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few updates today. So in the spirit of putting some light on the Moorhead Police Department, I didn't know it was going to work like this, but let's do it. So it recently passed an audit from the Minnesota Post Board, with flying colors, I'll add, on April 28th. So the Minnesota Post Board oversees all the standards for training in Minnesota. In the audit, it looks at policies, training, hiring requirements, all of that, but it said that it was impressed with the level of organization in Moorhead's police department and how easily information was provided when requested or needed. There was also a comment about using the Moorhead, the MPD, as an example for other Minnesota cities in the spirit of just keeping the thing moving and the professionalism in it. So I just wanted to say a thank you to Sergeant Joe Brannon, crime analyst Cameron Jensen, Chief Helmick, and former Chief Monroe for putting that up. This is really excellent work, and it's an honor to work alongside these professional law enforcement, this team. That works every day, frankly, to keep residents safe, foster engagement, and build trust. So with that, the mayor had mentioned the Minnesota Young American Leaders Program. Assistant Planner Brittany Cameron and Communication Coordinator Kelly Kuntz have been selected to represent our region. It's a competitive process, so that was really great. And last year, the Moorhead alum of the program was Jordan Work. And so these are really incredible people. Wanted to say congratulations and thank you to Sergeant Michelle Volz, who graduated from the International Association of Chiefs Police Leadership program on April 28th. The program is I will say, forward-thinking in that it focuses on individual, group, and organizational types of leadership. It uses interactive methods such as case studies, role-playing, and class exercises to help participants apply behavioral science theories in real-world challenges and situations. And the courses emphasize practical strategies for influencing behavior, boost motivation, satisfaction, and performance across the organization. So, way to stay ahead, Moorhead and Michelle, or Sergeant Bolts, I should say. Let's see here. Okay, the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, DEED, nominated Moorhead for a CC Award. It's a national recognition around kind of economic development work for our work with DG Fuels to establish a sustainable aviation fuel site in Moorhead and in the McCara Business Park in particular. DG Fuels and this project is, well, Moorhead, frankly, is one of 10 projects recognized nationwide in this magazine. It's right here to prove it. Well, actually, I'll even read the award. This CC Award is presented to the City of Moorhead for Outstanding Achievement in Economic Development for DG Fuels. And hats off to Team Moorhead for that, and especially our community and economic development teams where, we know who we're talking about. Derek LaPointe and Amy Thorpe and Christy Lashevsky and Nate Ocker. I mean, we could go on, and you and our Economic Development Authority and all that. So that's great. And lastly, I'm happy to inform everyone that the City of Moorhead is being recognized as a Step 5 Green Step City. Again, this year, the highest of the Green Step honors. This will be presented at the League of Minnesota Cities annual conference in Duluth next month. Efforts that helped us maintain this Step 5 status include LED streetlight conversions throughout multiple sources of grant funding. It was noted that the various sources to get this LED conversion across the city done was lifted up. Increases in the city's tree inventory, the urban canopy, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions as collected by benchmarking. So Moorhead is the only community in the metro that is doing benchmarking for energy use. Efforts to recycle and compost more and more each year. The level, when we're doing our street planning, complete streets in the way in which some of the work around the Safe Routes to Schools initiative, citywide comprehensive planning, storm engineering, and much more. So this award is a great achievement in Moorhead. I want to thank Assistant Planner Ethan Junk and Community Development Christy Lashevsky for helping communicate and report all this great work citywide. A lot of it is just, it's happening. People are leading from where they sit, but it's gathering it and putting it together in a manner that it looks cohesive, as my grandpa used to say, be cohesive. Recognition in this program shows that Moorhead is committed to making our community in Minnesota more resilient and place worthy of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. How many years in a row has Moorhead received the Green Step 5 designation?
Boy, I think we're on, probably about 4 years. And then in each one of those went step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then into 5. And what's interesting about 5 is that you have to show progress. If you don't make progress in at least 3 of the required metrics, you don't continue. So it's work.
Yes, and I know it's ongoing. I just think that it's incredible that this program was started probably about 10 years ago within the city of Moorhead, and it took us a while, but we got to step 5, and the work that's being done within the city of Moorhead. When new people are coming in, that's just the way it is. It means that the changes that we're making are institutionalized, and when you institutionalize change, you know that change is going to be there because that's how people get trained, and they don't know that there's any other way that it's been done. So I think that there's a lot of kudos that needs to be given to the staff because I've looked at the requirements to be able to get to a step 5 and maintain a step 5, and it is a ton of work. And it's just incredible, and it just makes me so proud to be part of Moorhead when we're continually looking for ways to be resilient in our city.
Indeed. If I could add one thing, you know, I think that one area for improvement would be to make it more fun. And I know everyone tries, you know, it's fun to get stars, but the race, you know, I mean, like this, maybe even like a serious urban game. We might have to share this at the League of Cities. If, you know how people check their fantasy football scores or whatever. But if we were Green Step City competing, that could be fun. So,
And I think, didn't Public Works put out a bingo, a cleanup week bingo chart or something like that? I still need to look at it, but I could
yeah, I think we
probably
can do,
win by just
like
going to one of my
important work and
neighbors.
still enjoy doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Gaming for a cause. I think there's something to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do not have an executive session tonight, and we do not have any new business. So it's 6:35, and we are adjourned. So good night, Moorhead.